Good evening. We're going to take a look at chapter 7 over the next 3 or 4 videos. And it's if you look at where we've been so far, chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, more focused on individual markets, looking at prices and quantities, what happens when supply curve shifts, demand curve shifts, the impact on not only prices, but quantities demanded, what it takes to shift those curves back and forth, to travel along a curve once it shifts, how equilibrium prices are arrived at within the market. Talked about economics as, social science. And a lot of the first 4 chapters focused, to me, more on microeconomic fundamentals. Now we're starting in chapters 5, 6, and 7, starting to talk about those areas or environments or parameters or drivers of the market that macroeconomics and macroeconomists actually focus on in their day-to-day activities. So we've talked about in chapter 5, talked about output. Chapter 6, we talked about price levels and inflation. And now in chapter 7, we're going to talk a little about unemployment. And one of the things to keep in mind as we go through this, and we'll kind of start to tie them all together when we get to chapter 8, as again, we're trying to build your toolbox, trying to provide you those bits and pieces of information and tools that we're going to help to make you successful once you get out, not only into the marketplace, but help you become successful in your college education and attaining the degree that you're trying to attain. So just remember that policy in general, and for the well-being of the nation's population, not only in the U.S., but any country, it's to keep the economy kind of humming along. You'd like to control output. You like it at a certain level. You want to keep inflation under control, and you want to manage, the unemployment. So that's what policymakers are doing. That's what's going to optimize the well-being of any given population. So if you stop and think about it, in chapter 5, we talked about GDP and the summation of consumption, investment, government purchases, and net exports. And then we talked about real GDP because we wanted to take away or mitigate the impact of prices and the price level, which was, the inflationary piece. We're trying to figure out, is the real GDP, so is the economy actually improving its production, or is it improving because of price impacts? And you also, we were talking about the production possibility curve, which we talked about in the first 4 chapters, but trying to maintain that we're either on that production possibility curve or the economy's growing and it's pushing that envelope out so that we attain areas that outside the initial production possibility curve. Because remember, in the PPC, your factors of production are fixed, but it also, to be on that production possibility curve, it's assumed that all of your factors of production are fully employed and you're producing as efficiently as possible. So we're producing the right stuff, and we're maximizing the magnitude of that right stuff. And to continue to meet those 2 goals, we need to keep pushing that production possibility curve out. And also, when we talked about, so far, whether it's GDP, whether it's, CPI, the PCE, the implicit price deflator, we're always talking about, here are the measurement issues that they run into, whether it's the BEA, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, or the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They're all running into, no matter what metric that we've developed up to this point, again, GDP, some kind of price index, they're always running into measurement issues. They're always running into data issues. And while they aren't perfect, it's at least at this point in time, and they have changed over the years and tried to improve them, but it's kind of the best we have. So economists are doing the best they can to try to measure output, inflation, and unemployment. And then the last thing, as we've said, it's for the well-being of the economy and for the well-being of the society in general. We want to keep this economy kind of humming along and growing, whether some economists like say, let's keep that thing growing about 2 or 3%, annually. Some would like a little more, some will argue a little less, but the one thing you'll find out about economists and the talking heads on TV that think they're experts in the business world, everybody has an opinion. And that's, I guess it was Patrick Swayze, and maybe that movie was in a Roadhouse where he was a bouncer, and his comment was, well, opinions vary. And to some extent, that's true. Opinions vary across financial experts, economic experts. Everybody has an opinion, and that's what makes America great, makes U.S. great, is everybody's entitled to that opinion. And while everybody's entitled to that opinion, it makes things difficult for individual investors, especially, to try to figure out what the economy is going to do and how they want to ensure that they have the consumption opportunities and the financial well-being and the wealth to provide a comfortable way of life, not only for themselves, but for their family. So that's where we are right now. And in section 2 or installment 2, however you want to look at it, we're going to get into the kind of the nuts and bolts on employment. So I will wind things up here for kind of the overview and intro into kind of where we're going along this road. And I'll be back in a few minutes to talk in more detail about unemployment. Talk to you soon.